Hi, it's George McFly at Knox Horizon Complete Auto Care. I'm here with Randy and Joe, and this week we're going to talk about preventative maintenance, the importance of it, and why to bring a vehicle to Knox Horizon Complete Auto Care. Randy, Joe?
Well, preventative maintenance is the lifeblood of your car, especially oil changes. I don't know how many cars we've seen in here that the oil's way up thousands of miles past due. And as we know, and you can attest to, we've literally had to replace engines because people let their car go so long.
Yes, sir.
What Nissan Maxima comes to mind. You remember that car?
I remember that car.
How many miles was on that car? Do you remember?
Roughly 98,000 miles.
So 98,000 miles, and I don't think the oil had ever been changed. It was like molasses coming out of it.
It actually looked like a jello mold when we took the oil pan off.
It did, and we had to flush the car multiple times and do multiple oil changes, and we actually saved that engine. But that's the exception, not the rule. Most of the time when a car's been neglected that way, it destroys the engine, and there's nothing you can do but replace it. So, talking about preventive maintenance, we have a Kia Sportage here. What do people need to know about the Kia Sportage? What do they need to do to check their oil?
Oh, the dipstick first.
Oh, it's got a dipstick. Okay. So a lot of cars have dipsticks. Do some cars not have any?
Yes, actually that.
Oh,
right there.
this one over here, the Volvo S80 has no dipstick. And most people have no clue about that, and they're like, where's the dipstick? I can't find one anywhere. That's because there isn't one. The oil level has to be read through the computer of the car.
Is that common, Joe?
Yes, very common. And all of your newer cars, they're getting away from the dipsticks.
No dipstick. You
Yeah.
learn something new every day.
So the driver doesn't have to get out of their car to check their oil.
And so, explain again how they know if they have enough oil in their vehicle.
Basically, they have to know how to operate their center computer in their car where their display screen is, and you have to know where to go in there and go, oh, what's my oil level? And it tells them what their oil level is by a sensor that's inside the engine. Now we go back to sensors and diagnostics and stuff. If that sensor goes out, then they have no idea how much oil they have in the car.
Do I have a dipstick in a 21 Sportage?
You still do. Kia still has
Yeah.
their dipsticks.
Okay. All right.
Now here's what's interesting. Transmissions, same way. And unfortunately, almost all transmissions now are going to have no dipsticks.
This one doesn't have a dipstick. That one doesn't have a dipstick.
Yeah, because you used to start your car and then check the tranny fluid.
Yes.
Oil, this is
Yes.
just a lay person
Yeah.
speaking. An oil, a check, dipstick, car off. Tranny, car running,
Yeah.
dipstick. No dipstick. Why anymore?
So my guess is more so people will bring their cars back to the dealer and get their services and everything to make sure they get their maintenance done. So they take the dipsticks away so the people will come in and keep maintenance on their car.
How important is it to get your scheduled maintenance on your transmission?
Absolutely, it's critical for especially all the tight tolerances in these new cars.
One thing that people don't realize, Nissan, some of your Kias, and a whole lot of other cars use what's called a CVT transmission. Our opinion at Knox Horizon is the worst design out there, but everybody still uses them. Just our opinion. I'm not bad-mouthing any of the manufacturers, but it's a horrible design. CVT transmission, the best way I've ever heard it explained, it works like a go-kart transmission. There's a gear in there with a band that goes around it. As you go faster, it spreads out. As you slow down, it comes in. And that's how the transmission works. To me, it makes no sense. But again, it is what it is. But the important thing on CVT transmissions is, and nobody does this, every 30,000 miles, the CVT fluid has to be changed religiously, or the transmission goes out and there is no way to rebuild one. It's a replacement every time. There's no parts to rebuild those transmissions. And a great example is that when you call Nissan or somebody with CVT transmission and they tell you, yeah, we got 5 on the shelf, that tells you something. Because a lot of other transmissions, yeah, we can have one in a week, we can have one this, but CVTs are normally on the shelf to deal because they go out because people don't do that maintenance. So that's how important it is that every 30,000 miles of CVT, you do it. It's important on regular transmissions that you do it by the manufacturer specifications. Change that fluid. We showed you our complete fluid exchange machine. We can get all the fluid out, not just part of it.
This is right. It's better to go ahead and spend $300 for a fluid change than $4,000 for a transmission when it comes to CVT.
Yeah, Joe, that makes a lot of sense, and I learned a lot already today. I'm going to bring my vehicle into Knox Horizon Complete Auto Care and for all my vehicle needs, whether it's an oil change, preventative maintenance, brakes, tires. Heck, if I wanted my car waxed, I could bring it to Knox Horizon Complete Auto Care. Truly, your one-stop shop.
Absolutely. And when we talk about preventive maintenance, we get to coolant. A lot of people never change the coolant in their car. GM cars, what happens if you don't change your coolant?
They corrode up and they start leaking.
But what happens to that coolant when we try to get that? A gel even, yeah. And it stops up everything. So now you're not changing your coolant in a GM car because it uses what's called Dex Cool.
Sure.
So you don't change it, it turns into this gel, it turns into a grit. Not only does it corrode everything, stops everything up. So now it's not a matter of just changing your coolant. Now you got to change the radiator. You got to change the heater core. You got to change anything that's stopped up because the passages and radiators and heater cores are so small. It has to be just a liquid to flow through.
How often are you supposed to flush your radiator, Joe?
It's different by manufacturers. You know, Dexcool, I do it religiously, probably every. What would you say on that?
Dex Cool, if it were my vehicle and I drove GM, I'd do it every year. I would have that changed.
What would be a symptom of a radiator getting all gelled up?
Overheating.
Overheating.
Yeah.
Overheating big time. And most other cars use the radiator coolants. I would say every 2 years is great because it's not just the coolant goes bad, but the pH level changes. And if your pH gets acidic in there, then it starts rusting, starts corroding, and people don't think of that. And we have some people that, another great thing is too, used to years ago, you have one coolant for every car. It was green coolant, it was what it was, but now there's a lot of cars out there, Asian and European cars, there's a pink, a violet, a blue, and people go, why are there so many colors? Guess what? Nobody can explain it to us either, but I can tell you that we have found out from Volkswagen, if you put the wrong color coolant in there, it'll overheat. And even Volkswagen can't explain to me that's why it is. But we know it happens because we've seen it happen. So it's not only, again, it goes back to like we talked about the oil, putting the correct viscosity oil, putting the right amount of oil, but the same thing with coolant. You have to put the right coolant in that is made for that vehicle.
Preventative maintenance is so important. Bring your vehicle into Knox Horizon Complete Auto Care for all your preventative maintenance needs. Oil, coolant, tranny fluid, what else?
They're all out there. When we do an oil change, we go through an inspection where we check every light on it, make sure they're working. We check all your fluids, top them off if they're low. If there's something that we notice that is bad, we're gonna let you know about it. I recommend too, manufacturers have different lengths of when they recommend the oil to be changed. My Volvo, they recommend 10,000 miles. I wouldn't let my car go 10,000 miles on that oil if my life depended on it.
I'm the same way.
Now, oils and additives have gotten so much better. It used to be the standard was every 3,000 miles.
Sure.
With oils the way they are now, 5,000 miles I think is perfectly acceptable. It's great. And tire manufacturers, which nobody realizes either, they recommend that your tires are rotated every 6,000 miles. I say if you do your oil change every 5,000 miles, get your tires rotated then, and that way you're extending the life of those tires. If your tires go out, like on mine, a set of tires for my Volvo is over $600. I don't have to replace those until they actually reach their life.
Yeah, listen to Randy. That's another reason why not to go to one of those quick lube joints, because they're not going to rotate your tires. Again, I learned something new today, and so I'm obliged.
Brake fluid, that's something else that nobody thinks about. They never, almost every shop I've been in, they'll look at the brake fluid, but if it's black and dirty, nobody realizes, but there's moisture builds up in all these different fluids and stuff. Brake fluid shouldn't have moisture in it. It can actually cause your brakes to be spongy, cause them not to work. So if your brake fluid, there's a recommendation in every owner's manual of when you should have your brake fluid flushed. Nobody does it. Again, it's something they just don't think about. So we can do that too. We can flush the brake fluid, and we can tell you, power steering fluid, the same way. But that's the lifeblood of these vehicles. Any vehicle you have is to keep these fluids changed, to keep them changed by the manufacturer's specification, and then your vehicle is going to last you forever and ever. We have some people in here that brought us cars over 300,000 miles and still going.
Sure.
But they're religious on getting their maintenance done. Then we have some people who aren't religious. They bring them in here and they got 40,000 miles and they're making all kinds of noise. Or the radiator's leaking or something. It's like, you're not taking care of it. And to me, cars are not cheap anymore, and they're going higher all the time. I read an article the other day, ABC News, that said this year they're up another 23% from where they were January 1st. Expensive investment. Why would you not take care of that? Make it last
maintain than it is to buy new anymore.
Yeah, Joe, Randy, educational and good to know. Preventative maintenance, just one thing that they do here at Knox Horizon Complete Auto Care. I'm George McFly. Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you, George.
Randy,
appreciate it, buddy.
Joe, knoxhorizon.com, or whether here or there, I'll catch you off the air. Take care.